Well, good day, everybody. Welcome to the Lifetime Training Podcast. And I'm so excited to bring you, for the first time, actually a member story of, we all hear about the good and the bad and the ugly of clubs, but this is just an amazing story. And today I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Ryan Burgess, who actually started his career as a personal trainer to get his way through college. And I'll get into that story as we go on. But now he's, has a commitment to fitness and really has an amazing story that I want everybody to hear around kind of what we're dealing with today in COVID and, during the shutdown and what happened and how he was able to actually thrive through it all. So I'll let him get into the story. He's also been a longtime member for us in the Sacramento region, mainly the Roseville Club. So I want to welcome to the show, Mr. Ryan Burgess. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate you having me today.
Man, it's fantastic. I'm so glad that Rob, Mr. Rob Schmalley, the GM of the Roseville Club, connected us for you to be able to tell your story, because I think, hopefully a lot of people today listen to this story and take their small but super impactful tips that allowed you to become successful in more ways than one. So, let's dive into it. So, I think just starting, I would love for the audience, it's mainly a trainer basis, to understand, why did you get into training, and then what happened and how you got out of it to start your own financial firm?
It's a good question. So let me actually, before I really dive into that, let me just say I'm honored to be the first member story up on the Lifetime podcast. It's a great honor. So I definitely appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right. That being said, I've always been drawn, I think, to the fitness world. I played sports as a kid. I think as any, I wasn't overly gifted in athletics, but just didn't have to work overly hard at it either. So I enjoyed sports, right? I wasn't a kid that didn't want to go to practice or didn't want to play, but in that realm of, I played basketball, I played baseball, I played soccer, just in the town leagues where I grew up. And that led, I think, to taking an interest, at least in exercise and in, muscular development and whatnot. And what actually really kicked it off for me in the training world of becoming a trainer was, as a Christmas present, a family friend of mine bought me a personal training session with a trainer. And that was it. It was as simple as that. I got a free session, maybe two, I can't remember. It's been a long time. Mm-hmm. But a couple of free sessions with a trainer, him and I hit it off. His name was Ryan too. And next thing you know, I'm I walk in one day, I started just working out more for fun with the guys, if you will, at that club. And one of the guys says, "Hey, when are you going to get certified?" And that was like the door opening. And I just light bulb went off, and I just started, learning it about, I got my certification through ACE. So learned through, about all the organizations you could get certified through back then, and just started down that path, and off I went.
Well, it's awesome too. And another small world tie is that, the town you grew up in was a town I lived in for about 3 or 4 years in California, in the East Bay, Danville. Shout out to Danville. Beautiful, yes. Beautiful town. But, I want to also say to the managers, if there's training managers out there, listen to this story, right? You've got a client that took on a couple of sessions that then turned into a trainer and did pretty well and made his way through college, I believe, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And that's what helped support you through college as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I really used training early on. So this was the early 2000s. I used training early on as a way to help me get through college and financially. Training can pay a decent wage per hour. It can be somewhat flexible with your schedule. So having to take classes, and back then online really wasn't much of a thing. Obviously, the world is very different today. Yeah. But back then, definitely in-person classes was really how you did it. And anyway, it was conducive to being able to go to class and take those classes back then.
Awesome. And then you also got into Krav Maga too, right?
Correct. I did.
And so, I'm going to assume, but I want to, talk to you about it, is that, obviously those types of disciplines create a different mental thought process. And I'd love, and if I'm wrong, let me know. I never did it, but I just know the martial arts and forms of it, and, the practice and the consistency. But I would love for you to kind of, out of your words, how did that impact you in your life in general, and how does it transfer?
Yeah, I'd say probably number one, just the discipline. And it was an environment where you have the instructors and then the trainers there really teaching you a very specific skill set. Now, for those that don't know, Krav Maga is very self-defense based. It's just kind of a no frills, just protect yourself at all costs, and neutralize the threat and then escape. That's the gist of it, if you will. And so, in other words, when you are in that environment, and this is a skill set that nobody is born with, right? You just have to learn it, and you're being trained in a very disciplined way, very structured way, that all the techniques are been vetted, and it's used, I believe worldwide. I could be wrong on that, but it's definitely used in a lot of different areas around the world. And basically, it comes down to, I think for me, what I really got out of it is the confidence and the ability to like learn these techniques and tactics that not only was it extremely difficult physically to go through this stuff, but the actual belt test or kind of level test that we had to end up and pass to move on were several hours long. I wouldn't say it's kind of like a different form of a marathon, if you will. So physically, it takes its toll, obviously being several hours long in training to pass. It's grueling. The 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever it was, really is all different body parts, all different levels of stamina and cardio, different drills, different everything they throw at you. And it to do that and succeed and pass and keep leveling up, if you will, I think that just is a huge confidence builder, and just being able to like learn as you go, be able to absorb what they're teaching you, and then kind of be able to walk out the door and in real life kind of feel, not that you would want to protect yourself because no one wants to be attacked, but just knowing that you have that that skill set and that ability that I can at least hopefully come out of this alive. I might not come out of this pretty, but I can come out of this alive, versus having something really bad happen, worst case scenario. But I'll be honest, I mean, I didn't really go into it thinking about self-defense. I never thought I would genuinely use that skill set. Really, it was just more of, I just found it interesting in the first place, and I love the challenge, I think, of it, and the challenge of it's hard training. It is insanely hard training, and I think that I was a lot younger and a lot, probably better shape, I'd say, at that point in my life. And so I think I wanted that challenge. I think I wanted to come up against kind of a hurdle that I hadn't come up against yet physically. And then obviously that always ties into something mental. Yep. When you're in a marathon setting, whether it's an actual marathon or whether it's just a time-based thing that takes forever, whether it's a several-hour training exercise for martial arts or whatever it is, there's always a mental aspect that comes into play. And I think I think I've always been drawn towards things like that as well.
Yeah. And it's funny. I did a triathlon. It was on the first time I ever did. I jumped right into an Olympic distance because it was on my father's birthday, and he had passed away a few, I think it was a few months before that. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, even though I probably didn't train right. And the mental side of things that I had to use to get myself through, whether it was the water and then the run when I was cramping, it's powerful. But again, it helps build you up. And I think it's a perfect, segue into, your mentality. And it was so different than what most people had in talking to you. And that's what I want to share, with the crowd out here and in the audience around what happened. You were working out, you found Lifetime, and you'd been there for a while, and then COVID hit. I'd love for you to dive into that story of, one, how did you find Lifetime? And then two, what happened there?
Absolutely. So I just found Lifetime watching it be built from the ground up. I've been a resident of the Sacramento area, specifically, Roseville, Rockland area for many years now. And just driving around town, and anyway, saw it being built on the road there. Like I said, it was an empty plot of land, I think, before that, and up comes this gorgeous building. And I think I can't remember exactly where I came from. I've been a gym goer for decades now overall.
Yeah.
Obviously not always lifetime, but 2015 is when I believe that club opened, and I didn't get involved right from the get-go, right from the opening, but shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
I was just really interested in checking that club out. Like I said, it looked beautiful from the outside. So went in, took a tour, and that was that. Been a member pretty much ever since. And so that was 2015. And yes, about a year ago, maybe a little bit more now, but roughly a year ago, lockdowns happened. We all know the story. We all experience it in our own way. COVID really can or could have thrown a wrench in your life, whether that be emotionally, financially, within your family, obviously not being able to see extended family members if you didn't live with them, financially, etc. I mean, it could have been a myriad of ways, in multiple ways. And so here's what started. I basically sat there and I, the news I feel is often somewhat can be negative. You can really get sucked into what's going on, what's being said. And especially at that time, no one knew any details. It was a lot of the unknown, and it's just scary by itself. Mm-hmm. And so I just sat there and I went, I don't want to, like dive into this world and be sucked in and absorbed by the negativity that exists, that you could be sucked into. So I just sat there and I went, okay, in order to combat this, I just told myself one simple thing. I want to come out of the pandemic better than I went in. That was it. That was as simple as it was in my head. And it was just something I told myself. I don't even think I think it took me maybe several weeks or a month to even share it with my spouse. We're just talking in conversationally. And I thought, like, this is an opportunity. We can, whether it's, again, financially, emotionally, with the family ties that we have. I mean, I'm married, I have a daughter. So the three of us are a unit. We spent a lot of time together back then. And physically too, and with your health and nutrition and sleep and all those things, all those aspects of daily life. I just sat and I just, finally shared with her after a while of me sitting there and saying it to myself, hey, let's just come out of this better than we went in, or that's what I want to do. And, kind of invited her along the way, but that's where it started. As simple a sentence as I want to come out of this better than I went in. And I laugh saying that looking back, because just like everybody else, I had no idea what coming out of this meant. This was something that, the beginning was hopefully it was a month or a couple of weeks, or who knows how long it would last. But it's kind of what I was thinking. I think in the beginning, I had no idea it would be a year later that we would be, still dealing with things and battling and whatnot. I had no clue. I don't think many people did either. So that was it. It was just that simple statement. And I just had that mindset of, okay, let's not let this get the best of me. Let's try to improve things. That was really where it started.
And again, I think it's so powerful. And kind of what I say is it's the vision that you've kind of put in your mind, in your family's minds, of what you want to go and do. And in our conversation, I know one of the things that really hit me was that you were adamant and said several times that it wasn't a goal. Like, I wasn't shooting for a goal. And I'd love for you, because there's a lot of people out there that, even fitness professionals in the world, is you got to have the goal. You got to know the goal. You got to know the goal. And I'd love for you to explain, how you saw the difference between the kind of that vision that you set for yourself and then the goal, and what the difference was there.
Yes. So I think it was an evolution. The easiest way I can state it up front is it was an evolution that just happened over time. And started with the mindset and that simple saying of, I just want to come out of this better than I went in. And then what ended up happening. So here's really the story. Here's really what actually happened. So for those of you who have exercise trackers, an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or whatever it might be, it doesn't really matter. But there's a tracking mechanism on these devices that we wear these days. I have an Apple Watch personally, and on the Apple Watch, there's three rings that it tracks, and one is your stand ring, one is your exercise ring, and one is your move ring. So I just started closing all three rings every single day, and next thing you know, 30 days go by, and I've closed all three rings 30 days in a row, and then 60 days, and then 90 days, right? So on and so forth. And so when I say evolution, and I paint that, paint that picture, because that's really my story. My story for lifetime is, I've now closed my rings every single day, all 3 rings on Apple Watch, every single day for 365 days in a row.
That's awesome.
Starting, yeah, thank you. So starting at the beginning of the lockdown, around the beginning of the lockdowns, it was like early April at some point when I finally got the hang of capturing everything on the watch and not letting it die. Has to,
that is a frustration thing. I had something similar when I was doing my meditation streaks and it didn't register for some reason. I was pissed.
Yes, for sure. So technically, I'm pretty sure, because if you can go back and you can look at your history, and I'm pretty sure I did it like the couple of days in April that didn't count because the watch didn't record it. But I can't prove it. Like the watch didn't capture it, so it didn't happen as far as everything else is concerned. So I went by what the watch is telling me, so keeping it alive and letting it track the actual activity is key. But nonetheless, so started early April when started the streak, and then closed it obviously, or finished the year in early April of 2021. And actually, believe it or not, so to this day, this is now beginning of or middle of May, excuse me. And I still haven't stopped closing my rings, all 3 of them. So the streak is still going. I'm at now 400 and something days, 408 or something like that right now. And I'll stop one day. I'm just not there yet. But basically though, so I wanted to lay that groundwork. I wanted to at least kind of explain, okay, well, that's what I did. That was my accomplishment. 365 days, all 3 rings in a row. No breaks, no stops, every Christmas and birthday and Tuesday, this awesome. Got done. And so basically the evolution came in when, to your point, this was not a goal. I did not start this because I had no idea what the future would hold as far as COVID and the lockdowns and any of that back in April of 2020. I had no idea. And so it was simply just, I'm gonna come out of this better than I went in, and I did things also for like, I got back on a better sleep routine and try to eat better and try to save more money. And just, again, not just in one area, but in a couple areas of life. I had some more time in my hands. I think a lot of us did. So I just try to use it productively. And so that's all it was. It's just, like I mentioned, 30 days go by, 60 days go by. And I probably several months in, I start realizing, I kind of care about this. It wasn't right away. I just kind of, it grew and evolved into something where I went, I don't know when I'm going to stop this. So it wasn't a goal. I didn't set a goal for 6 months or 1 year or anything. It just kind of started becoming a thing. The deeper I got into it, it was more of a journey than it was anything else.
Well, and just from the things that I've really dove into around behavior and just motivation and that's why I said, I think it's more of a vision, because the vision at the end of the day that you set for yourself, the little mantra was, I want to come out better than this, than I came in. And that isn't just health. Like you said, it was health, it was financial, it was husband, it was mentally, it was kids, it was all of that stuff. And, what I'd like to project and use this as an example for the trainers out there and just anybody out there is when you think, not necessarily have to think long and hard, but when you create this vision that means something to you and you keep it in your mind, all the little goals obviously were things that you accomplished along the way, intentionally and unintentionally. And I think it's a heck of a lot more powerful for people to keep going. And then you find the little motivators along the way, like you did with the Apple Watch. But I'd love for you to explain too, what were kind of the unintended things that actually came from you sticking with this and doing this?
I would say, okay, so number one, the mental benefit, like by far. So we kind of touched on it. A former trainer, been going to a gym and working out basically for a couple of decades now. Been going to Lifetime specifically for the past 6 years, straight. So I didn't just get up one day, join the gym from nothing, right? From coming off the couch and then diving in. So I have the foundation built, right? Let's be transparent about this. Yeah. And I was working out, 5-6 days a week, pretty consistently for years and years and years before this ever happened. So I had that going, but I wasn't trying for anything specific. I just wanted to keep up a healthy lifestyle more than anything else. And so this addition of every single day, no days off, you know, you have to start modifying a few things. And basically it becomes now there's no mental break. So I say my first answer was the mental benefit really, I think, was the thing I didn't really anticipate much going in, and going out, looking backward now, going, wow, I think mental was huge, a benefit that came out of all this, because physically, again, had that foundation, been working out pretty consistently, didn't really go through any brand new workout routine, just kind of did what I've been doing, maybe tweaked it a little tiny bit, but nothing drastic. And so like the physical benefits were there. Don't get me wrong. I lost some weight. I really, really increased endurance, or muscular endurance. I have like a pinched nerve issue in my lower back, nothing major, but that overall has gotten better and felt better as time has gone on. And that basically, I think, is a big result of me dropping the weight of the resistance training I was doing more reps, doing more sets. And so just, definitely got some physical benefits. I wanted to definitely acknowledge that, but really I'd say the mental aspect, because all of a sudden you have to shift gears. This is not about hitting a goal. This is not about short term. This is long term. This is, I want to just keep this going. So no longer am I thinking I want to hit a certain weight in my bench, or a certain speed on my mile, or a certain number of squats, or whatever, right? I'm just kind of throwing out examples, but whatever that might be for you or the training group audience out there. It's more so, how do I just keep this going? How do I make sure that I don't miss a day? How do I make sure that I just shift just enough where it's not about achieving a goal? Because then what likely happens is I might take my foot off the gas. I might take a day off. I might do something and just derail a little tiny bit. And for some people, derailing a little bit can lead to a long-term derailing. So, again, I'm just sharing that just for audience sake, but I think, really for me, just the mindset and the grind and going when you don't feel like it, which happens, but happens more often when you're going 365 days in a row.
Yeah.
It just does.
Yeah.
And the mindset of, okay, I have to, make sure that I'm structuring things in a way that I can, not burn out, not wear my body out, not wear my joints out, not get injured, of course. I got to keep going and come back more as this goes on. And as I keep closing my rings and I keep wanting to do it. And so just the dedication and the grind, and really feeling, again, I think confidence boost going through that process, and realizing that it's okay to not feel like you want to do this. It's okay. That's normal. It's natural sometimes. It's okay to phone it in sometimes, right? Sometimes you have to show up, and showing up is really the majority of the battle. Just getting there and getting to the gym and or showing up to your study session, or showing up to your let's say it's your like weekly meal prep, in the kitchen, right? Whatever that might be for your goals or for whatever you want to accomplish. Showing up is really a huge part of the battle. And so once you get there, for me at the gym, it's okay. I try to have a good workout, and sometimes, a lot of times it happens, but it doesn't happen every time. Giving yourself the slack and giving yourself, the guilt-free set, the mindset of, look, I showed up, I did what I could do today. It wasn't my best, but that's okay. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm not going to give up, but I'm just going to keep coming back. And I just think that if you take a look at that, and you can, in that concept of, give yourself some slack, don't be guilt-ridden on missing a session, or, phoning it in sometimes, or not having your best, a effort every single time. It's okay. This is the long game. Long game, that those things don't always happen. It's more about staying with it and staying involved and engaged and showing up more than anything else. And now all of a sudden, where I really want to tie this into mindset is, well, that can be applied to almost any area of your life. And that's really what I think I wanted to share about, the mindset benefit.
I love it. And, some people might be asking the question, well, Lifetime shut down, especially in California, it was really shut down for longer than, most of the states. So how did you find, because I think this all ties into what you were saying, is finding a way, and how do I get to the gym, or how do I get my workout in? how did you find your way when Lifetime shut down? What were the things that you then found to do? Because like you said too, is and super important here is maybe during this time, it's not about these massive gains. It's about just maintaining and, maybe just getting better in a different aspect of health and fitness. So, talk to them about how you found your way of being able to still be active and do whatever training that you ended up doing.
Absolutely. I came across a saying that really has helped. And it's simply this concept of, look, like if you are injured, for example, you hurt your leg, okay, no problem. Do what you can. If you're tired, okay, I get it. Do what you can. So that do what you can really helps out when you're now thinking long term, even sometimes short term, right? You're at the gym and you're in there for a goal, you're in there for a weight loss goal or muscle gain goal or strength or whatever. And I think just the days when you're just off, or the days when you're hit with obstacles, and I'll tie this into the gym closures, do what you can. That's the takeaway. Do what you can do that day. Okay, so now for me specifically, California, yes, we're dealing with gym closures. We're dealing with multiple gym closures, because I'm going to get this wrong, but something to the effect of, I think they opened in June-ish at some point, give or take a little bit, closed later in either the summer or the fall. I can't remember, like through some of the like fall, winter time, then went outdoor. They opened up the tent on the tennis courts outdoor and had the gym moved outdoors for only a part of the gym. They didn't move all the equipment down, just some of it. And then eventually all that moved indoors eventually as well, and went basically back to normal after that. But so multiple, open, closed, open, outside, inside, which one's which. Not only that, California has wildfires. It's pretty well known now. We've had them for years in a row, and that means air quality is bad. Luckily we weren't affected by the fires themselves, but it makes the air really, really bad. So all of a sudden, if the gym's closed, can't go to the gym with air filtration, and you're having to go outside, well, then you need to find a time that's pretty, not so bad to breathe the air. Yeah. And when you're doing exercise, well, you're, obviously you're breathing heavier, and you're not wanting to take in, some of that ash and stuff that's in the air. It gets kind of nasty. So you're always thrown obstacles, right? Air quality, gym closures. So that means if you're outside, temperatures, right? In this area, it's easily 100 degrees in the summertime. It can get to be freezing in the wintertime. What else? Geez. So for me, it was just knowing that, look, I don't care. Like, throw what you want at me. It doesn't matter. If I want to do this, I have to not care about what the obstacles are. And you find a way, and you do what you can. And so it sometimes was simply a walk around the neighborhood. All right. Like I said, I have a daughter. At the time, she was 2. And so my wife, daughter, and I would go for a walk in the stroller. We had a couple of dogs, so sometimes we'd bring the dogs along, sometimes not. It varied, but that's one thing. You just go for a walk outside, right, around your neighborhood, or go to a park, or whatever suits you and your lifestyle and what you prefer to do. And then besides that, I lucked out, and before any of this ever happened, I actually bought a few pieces of equipment. I mean, very few, like a barbell, couple of plates, like 45-pound plates, 10-pound plates, etc. It's like a variety of a couple plates on the bar for the barbells, and whatnot. And I did a little bit of weights, but that was just real minuscule. It was simply because I did that to mix it up. Didn't want to go for a walk every single day, right? That does get a little bit tedious and boring after a while with the lockdowns. And so when I needed to, just threw in a little bit of weights with what I had around the house. My wife and I would throw on exercise videos on the TV screen, put them up on YouTube or whatever, streaming we had at the time, and would do like aerobic workouts and whatnot, and just anything just to either mix it up. If it was me doing it by myself or with my wife, it was just simply something that we would, for me, to try to keep it interesting and not get too terribly bored with it. And if I did, just try to move on to the next thing to mix it up. And then, I remember for a time there, I was just doing like sprints in the backyard. Just whatever you could do, I felt like I could do well and wanted to push myself a tiny bit of what I could get, whatever I could do at the time, but given the circumstances. And then I will say, last but not least, one of the other benefits that this was just luck, pure luck, but a family member called us up really early on in the lockdowns and basically said, "Hey, we have this treadmill that we aren't using. Would you like it?" Yes, please.
They would have waited a little longer. They would have found out they could have probably made $1,000 on that sucker.
I know, right? Right. Yeah. They could have sold that for a pretty penny, but it wasn't anything. It wasn't anything fancy. It was, I've never owned a treadmill in my life. And we get a phone call. "Hey, do you want one?" So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that was a lifesaver, because what ended up happening was, so I got into a little bit of a routine, especially I think early on. Honestly, some of this does blur together, so I apologize. I'm not real clear on what happened when. But the point is that I think early on that treadmill really came in handy, because we set it up. I first set it up inside the house, didn't love it there. Tried it out there for a couple of weeks and didn't love it, so moved it up to the garage and had it in the garage where I had a little setup. I think I rigged up a pull-up bar. The weights were out there, the treadmill. So that became, my gym for a little bit. Again, just making it work and putting the time in there. And first thing in the morning, getting up, going out there on the treadmill and just turning it on and either doing a heavy walk or a light jog or something, and just, burning through the exercise and moving on.
That's awesome. Well, man, any other, outcomes that, that came from everything that you've been doing? Obviously, we're still technically in this thing, but anything else that you didn't mention that you remember that you want to share with the audience?
So I remember really going stir crazy at the very beginning, and nothing to do with exercise, just uncertainty of the world and the virus and everything being, yes, I listened to the news a little bit, but just trying to stay informed and understand what was going on, yet obviously not knowing what was going on really in the grand scheme of things, now that we can look back and see what we didn't know early on. So I remember my wife and I just having to sit down and go, you know what, we need structure. We need a routine. And I know some people are routine based, and like that's their like lifeblood, if you will, of getting in on a schedule, and others aren't. And to each their own. That's not a big deal. But I remember we literally was set an alarm, to get up, get cleaned up, get dressed, get our day going. We have our routine set, and we literally had an hour set in the day to do chore time. I mean, I know it sounds silly and whatnot, but don't forget, a year ago, things were just crazy in that you couldn't see even your family. Things, you had to stay home, right? Like no one could go to work unless it was in certain job types. And it was just a lot of what's going to happen. Where is this going to go? How long is this going to last? Speaking of mindsets, I think what it was is always having to recalibrate and always having to, maybe we'll get out of this soon, or maybe this will take months and months and months, or, and all that back and forth and uncertainty. And I just remember going, you know what, let's just kind of have our little world and do the best that we can and have our set schedule and routine. And we take a break in the middle of the day for, get chores done, because we want to keep the house somewhat normal from, pre-pandemic, time frame. Exercise time got built in there. All these important things I think that we wanted to make sure we did. So there was time set aside for finances and dedicated to budgeting and making sure that we were putting money to good use. There was time set aside for exercise and for making sure that that got done. I try to get on a better sleep schedule. That definitely helped a lot. My wife, bless her heart, she's the force in the kitchen. I am useless there, I'll admit that. And so she got way better at cooking and way better at she was good already, don't get me wrong, but she got better at what she wanted to do in the kitchen. And so that helped us eat healthier. So it was just, I think I know not everyone's married, but for us, it was a joint effort. And for us, we definitely kind of leaned on each other at times and were able to come together and come up with this lifestyle and this, system that worked for us a year ago. And we definitely benefited a ton a year later, looking back and going, wow, that really does add up. And that's kind of what I wanted to tie in and kind of summarize that whole thing with, is that at the time you're just going through it. You're just grinding it out day in and day out, trying to do the best that you can. And I think you just kind of sometimes have to put your head down and just get through it and gut through it, whether it's financial or, nutritional or physical or whatever. And if you can kind of get some distance, for me now, it's been a year and I can look back and I go, wow, thank goodness we did all that. Thank goodness we're going crazy. And that forced us to kind of put some things in our lives that really helped. And it didn't help right away. I mean, there's still a lot of stress and stuff that popped up from time to time. Like, I think that always happens. But I think, you look back 6 months later, 12 months later, 18 months later, whatever. And I think that's really where you can sit back and go, I'm glad I did that. That was so beneficial. It might not always seem like it in the moment back then, but oh, wow. Like it really does come into play and really helps in the future.
Well, and I think that just sums up where we all started, where you started with this vision of, I want to come out of this with your wife. You said that to your wife, I want to come out of this. We want to come out of this better than when we started. And I just, again, can't overemphasize how powerful, whether that was intended or not, that vision was, because you said it, you could see it in your smile and your voice when you were talking about your wife and the things you do together and with your kids and just how that all came together during probably the hardest time in our lifetimes, that we've ever faced. And just want to say, awesome, congratulations. Thank you. And it was just an awesome, awesome story.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the ability to being able to share this. I just hope, if nothing else, I was sharing this with Rob, the GM over at Roseville, and honestly, it was just for the genuine thought of maybe this helps some people out there. I had no idea, and I didn't know this was going to happen. This podcast thing was going to happen. I just kind of left it in his hands, and some time later he goes, "Hey, I think let's interview you. You open to that?" And I go, "Sure." Yep. And this is what what came of it, and I'm appreciative because now that it's on a bigger platform, it's really just a story that I just hope that benefits a handful of people out there, if not just one person. That would be awesome. Just take this for what it's worth and apply it. Hopefully apply whatever resonates with you in your own life. And, instead of being maybe so much goal focused, think about journey focused. I think that was the biggest thing.
I love it. Well, I can't thank you enough again for being on, and people out there, listen to this story, rewind it, listen to the finer details, because there's so many little things that happened and that you did that really led to, like you said, this journey, and having a journey as opposed to a goal. And the goals just come along for the ride, and they change, and you don't get locked in by not achieving something because the journey took you somewhere else. So thank you again. And obviously help promote Blue Oaks Financial, and and if you need some help there, people that are struggling, because there are a lot, please reach out to Ryan, and I'll have all the show notes and everything. I'll have some links to get a hold of him directly, hopefully in a good way, and not many creeps are bothering you either. So thanks again so much for their time.
No, absolutely, Jason. Always happy to help. Always happy to chat, whether it be about fitness or finances. That's definitely my passions and my background. And thank you again. And until next time.